Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on Growing in the Vine, a channel where we grow together, not only as person but as Christians, as we try to get closer to Christ. So before we start, I wanted to do a Bible quiz. So tell me, if you can tell me the answer to this, what is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see? Can you tell me what that is? I'll read a different version for you guys and see if you can know. This is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Can you think of what it is? I'll give you a few seconds. Well, if you said faith, you are correct. So today for the video, we're gonna talk about faith. Faith. A lot of people talk about faith. The Christian, the whole Christian belief is on faith. And a lot of people, when they tell you to describe faith, they usually use this Bible verse, which is Hebrews 11 verse 1, which states, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. For by it the elders obtained a good testimony." And if you read the whole entire chapter of Hebrews 11, it tells you all these things about different type of faith, the faith of Moses, the faith of the patriarchs, the heavenly hope, faithful Abraham, Noah, all of these faithful things. Now, as Christians, I think one of the hardest things that we struggle with is faith. Even me, as a baby Christian, slowly graduating into toddlerhood, I struggle with faith a lot. And today I wanted us to really talk about a story in the Bible that really talks about faith. So if you have your Bible or your cell phone or whatever it is with me, we're gonna turn our Bibles to this is a very well-known story, to Mark 5, verse, I think 25. What's the 25. I was right. Okay. I'm gonna read it to you guys, and you guys can read along with me. I'm reading NIV version. All right. Mark 5, verse 25. This is a popular story. "And a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. She had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors and had spent all she had. Yet instead of getting better, she grew worse. When she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak, because she thought, 'If I just touch his clothes, I will be healed.' Immediately her bleeding stopped, and she felt in her body that she was freed from her suffering. At once, Jesus realized that power had gone out from him. He turned around in the crowd and asked, 'Who touched my clothes?' 'You see the people crowding against you,' his disciple answered, 'and yet you asked, who touched me?' But Jesus kept looking around to see who had done it. Then the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell at his feet, trembling with fear, and told him the whole truth. He said to her, 'Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering.'" So I don't know if you guys really take time to know about this story. So we have a woman here. She has been suffering from an issue of blood for 12 years. 12 years this woman has been suffering with this. I suffer from a blood issue. Not the same as her, but imagine 12 years. You're bleeding non-stop. Especially at that time, where when you're bleeding, you are seen as unclean, as people can't approach you, people can't touch you, you're seen as dirty. She was seen that way, which means she was ostracized. She was seen that way for 12 years. She had gone to doctors and doctors and doctors and doctors. And instead of getting better, she was getting worse. They kept taking her money. No one had an answer for her, right? And it said that she heard about Jesus and she decided to try this Jesus. Now this woman, her faith is great because I can only imagine. You've been bleeding for 12 years. You're probably anemic. You're probably weak. You probably have no strength left. But this woman somehow found the strength, found her way to get through a bunch of people, a bunch of crowd, because the Bible said there was a crowd. So there was a bunch of people around Jesus. Somehow, being so weak and fragile, she managed to get through the crowd to touch Jesus, because she thought that if I only touch him, I will be healed. Mind you, she has never seen this guy work. She has only heard of things that he has done. And she thought to herself, if I only touch his clothes, I will be made well. Now, how many of us Christians have been suffering, that we've gone to doctors, we've done all that we can, and we have no results? I'm one. If I can say a little bit of my testimony is, I had an issue going on with me, and it started all of a sudden. I went to doctors and they could not see anything that was wrong with me. That is the worst feeling ever, when you know you're not good, when you know you're not healthy, when you know something is wrong with you and doctors are telling you, the doctors who are quote unquote supposed to have the answers don't have any answers and telling that you're okay and that it's all in your head. That is the worst feeling ever. So imagine this woman going through all of that she's going through and somehow managing to get all the strength that she had to be able to test that faith, that thought that she had in her mind. But before we get into all that, what really struck my attention in the story is that, you know, the lady, she would have never went to Jesus if she hadn't spent all her money, if she hadn't spent everything she had. How many of us, we've gone to doctors, we've gone to other things, we've done other stuff, we've tried new age stuff, we've tried holistic healing stuff before we tried Jesus? A lot of us are like this lady. We tried all our other options. We've tested everything else. And then when we run out of money, quote unquote, then we say, let me touch him. And some of us, we're not even like this lady. Even when we touched this Jesus, we hesitated. But this lady, she didn't hesitate because she knew this is all she had left. This was her only hope. And then she touched Jesus. But you know what really I love about this story is Jesus' answer. Jesus said, "Who touched me?" And then, of course, his disciples were like, well, Jesus, you have a bunch of people touching you. What do you mean, who touched you? But Jesus kept looking around and he said, no, something is different about this lady. Something, guys, the way I seen it is like when that lady touched Jesus, it's like the world stopped. Everything froze for Jesus. Sometimes the way that we come before the throne of grace, we come before the throne of God, everything stops. And Jesus says, wait, no, my daughter is calling. My daughter is needing help. That's how I feel like it was for this lady. When Jesus said, who touched me? And he kept looking around. He's like, wait, this is different. This is faith that I've never felt before. This is different, you know? And I just love this story because this woman, she didn't know for sure if she was gonna be healed. But she says, if I only touch him, I will be healed. Another thing about faith is a lot of us Christians, we say it, but we don't do it. Faith requires action. As a Christian, it is not enough for you to just say it. You must also do it. Because I'm sure the lady could have stayed home. I mean, imagine, she's weak, she's been bleeding, she's anemic, all these things are going on. She could have just stayed home and be like, God can heal me from home. And he could. Because there's a story in the Bible where someone was at home and God healed them from their house. I mean, not God, Jesus healed them from their house. So Jesus could have most likely healed her from her house. But no, she managed to get everything in her being, everything in her body to go and touch Jesus. She managed to push through the crowd to touch Jesus. A lot of us Christians, we don't touch Jesus. We just stay and say, oh, I'm sure Jesus can heal me. I'm sure Jesus can help me. No, that is not enough. You need action. And if you see, in a lot of the times when Jesus did his miracle, he required action. He says, get up and walk. Open your eyes and see. He requires action. That lady did an action. You want a new job? Yes. Guess what? Make sure you pray to God to give you strength, to open doors, to put you in the right position, to put you at the right position at the right time. Ask for those things, but you need to go and do your own work. You need to go and do it in action. You can't just stay home, never apply, never do anything and say, oh God, I want a job. Oh God, I want a house. Oh God, I want children. Oh God, like, you need action. You need action to drive that faith. You need action to drive that faith. You need action to drive that faith. It is not enough for you to just say, God will heal me. It is not enough for you to just say that God can do it. You need action. And I know it's hard because when I was sick, it was hard for me. It was hard for me. And my cousin even told me. My cousin said, Mijin, we can bring every great person with the power of healing. We could do everything. But if you don't believe that God can heal you, you will never be healed. If you don't believe God can do this, you will never gain it. You need to apply your faith. And I know sometimes it's hard, especially as baby Christians, if you never, knew about God and you never knew about the faith, and now you're starting in this whole thing where you have to do faith. It's hard. It's hard to believe in a God that you do not see. But God says, but Jesus says, blessed is he who believes and has not seen. You don't want to be a Thomas. Thomas didn't believe. He had to see for him to believe. But Jesus says, blessed is he who believes and does not see. It's hard to believe in a God that you do not see. It's hard to talk to a God that you think does not answer you, who you think does not talk back to you. It's hard. It's hard to believe in a God where this world is telling you that he doesn't exist. It's hard to believe in a God where this world is turning away from him and telling you to turn away from him. It's hard to believe. It's hard. But nothing in this life is easy. Nothing in this life comes easy. It's hard to believe that God can heal you after you've been sick. But this lady's been sick for 12 years. 12 years. I think faith is one of the most beautiful and hardest things as Christians, because we don't want to be disappointed, because we don't want to be let down. I remember there was a lady at my church who was testifying. She said her mom was really sick and she knew things weren't gonna go well, and she prayed to God and prayed and really believed that God could heal her mom, and her mom still passed away. And she was angry, and she said she was angry with God because she said, I believed God, you said if I believed. But we must understand that sometimes our ways is not his ways, and our understanding is is not his understanding. And she even explained it to say that, you know, even though I believed, I had faith that God can heal my mom, but I knew that, and she said, now I know. She said, back then I didn't know that, but she says, now I know that it was not the right thing, it was not the best thing. Because sometimes God allows things to happen and we may not understand it at the moment, but later we'll understand why. I think that faith is just, it's like I said, it's one of the most beautiful things, it's one of the most amazing things, but it's one of the most hardest thing to conquer. It's one of the hardest thing. And I think as a Christian, the more, like I said in my last video, the more you grow in faith in your Christian life, in your Christian walk with God, the more it becomes easier. So like faith, when you start as a baby Christian, it's hard to have faith in this supernatural God and this supernatural being. But the more you work that muscle, the easier it is. I have faith that God will do what he said he will do. I have faith that I will be what God says I will be.